The Spurs are definitely racking up the W's right now, but are there still some concerns about the team? And should Spurs fans, they should pump the brakes?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs beat writer for KENS 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you all back. Subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcast. iTunes, Spotify, KENS 5 Plus app, YouTube. You know what to do. Subscribe right now. Become an everydayer. We definitely appreciate it. And also, we appreciate y'all making the Locked On Sports Podcast Network #1 in this nation. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No pork needed. Vanilla-y, cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. What are we talking about today? Look, we're not trying to rain the parade, okay? That's not our goal, all right? But as Harrison Barnes told me in Austin, that these remaining games are simply just dress rehearsals for the real deal, which is the playoffs. So since they're just rehearsals, what do the Spurs need to clean up? No knock on them. They're playing great. Obviously, they're winning right now. Yay, Spurs. But there are some things that I think the Spurs and our guests feel like, yeah, they got to get better at if they want to have a deep playoff run or shock the world and go to the NBA Finals. And then should Spurs fans pump the brakes? Yeah, they're winning, but are they proven themselves yet? They haven't had any playoff experience. So should we just temper expectations and wait to see how this team does when the 82 games are over and the opening round of the playoffs begin? Let's go to bring in our guest joining us via audio today, Mr. Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. He is on X at Dominguez5. Raul, welcome back to Locked On Spurs.
Thanks for having me. I'm throwing up the peace sign, even though I'm just doing audio.
So. Yeah, we missed the peace sign, man. I'll probably insert like the graphic of just a peace sign going on there. Yeah, everybody, again, just make sure to follow him on X at Dominguez5. It's a great follow. Again, he writes for the AP Sports based in San Antonio. And, yeah, he's one of our favorite guests here on Locked On Spurs. All right, Raul, let's go ahead and dive into it. Look, as I said in the intro, you and I were not trying to rain the parade, right? The win streak, they're beating the likes of Detroit, taking care of business versus teams they should take care of, such as Sacramento and Phoenix. They are playing well. But I had a chance to catch up with Harrison Barnes after the Sacramento game in Austin. And he said, like, hey, these games are really just dress rehearsals for the real deal, which is the postseason. And keeping that idea in mind, in any dress rehearsal, what are you doing? You're fixing up things. You're like, well, maybe, I didn't deliver the line right, or maybe the costume for my character needs changing. That's what dress rehearsals are about, is fine tuning. Ro, you are the guest. Is there anything that you think the Spurs you should be concerned about right now in these remaining games?
Trying to think. I don't know if it's concern, but some of the things that they still need to kind of work on is, the regular season rotation is usually different than the playoff rotation. So
good point. Yeah,
they're probably gonna have to tighten up the playoff rotation. I guess talking about Spurs, I guess really any NBA team always fall back on what what Popovich has said in the past. And Coach Pop always talked about, during the regular season, if you're heading toward the playoffs, especially when, he had the big three and it was, just, an annual occurrence when they would make the playoffs, he would always talk about how he wanted them to be playing their best heading into the playoffs,
right.
Just sort of, ratcheting up their momentum entering the postseason. So I think that's kind of a little bit of what Harrison is talking about. Like you want to fix all the little flaws. You want to, fix the, set your rotations, set your expectations, during the final month or so.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what they're trying to do. And they're doing a great job right now as far as offense and defense. I think they probably want to tweak a little bit more on defense, because defense is defense is still what wins you championships.
Sure.
So I'm sure they're going to want to do that. Right now they're doing a great job defensively, but I'm sure they're going to want to improve on their team defense a little bit more. Right now, there's a lot of great individual defense, but I'm sure they want to, hone their team defense.
for me, one of the things, and I have a few things on my list here with Spurs need to clean up on is, again, we saw versus Sacramento playing down to competition. We saw that there was no reason why the Spurs needed to wait till the second half to put away Sacramento. We saw in the first half. I mean, it was at halftime, and I told other members of the media that were sitting with me in Austin, I said, what is going on? This should not be happening. Raul, I was expecting this team within the first 5 minutes just to put away the Kings. We didn't see that until the second half. I think that is still a concern. You know, they're not playing at that top level as they should. And what another reason why I'm concerned about that, because I don't know if this team, and I get your thoughts on this, has that switch to turn it on like that to put away teams. And I need to see them playing consistently. And I guess that Kings game, we did not see that until the second half. Raul, let's go to dig deeper into that. Do you think this is a Spurs team that has that switch that they can turn it on and just put away teams? Are we there yet?
I think they're building it. You look at what they were doing earlier this season, as opposed to the way they are right now. I think that they're learning how to do that, learning how to rather than playing to the competition. I think that they're learning to they're getting better at playing not so much to the competition, but to their own level. I still think that they're building that. I think this last month, I think it's going to be especially against this last month or month and a half, whatever it is, that they are playing a lot of good teams, a lot of playoff teams. So
yeah,
it's going to be good for them to work on that. The old Spurs again. I keep mentioning the old Spurs, because to me they're the sort of the benchmark of success. That they would historically they would say the first half was really bad, and then the third quarter they come up and they just blow the team out, and then sort of cruise in the second half. I don't think the Spurs, this current roster, has that luxury. I think they need more of the 48 minutes in order to do so, in order to to beat these quality teams.
Sure.
But I don't think they have it quite yet. I think they're still building that. I think they're still learning how to do that. So I still think that this is a young team that's still kind of discovering who they are and what they're capable of.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is something they're still struggling with, even during their win streak. Right? Well, heading into the game last night versus the Raptors, is 3-point shooting. That's still a concern. What the crazy thing is that I don't know if you saw this stat by a friend of Locked On Spurs, Mike Jimenez. He put it on X and he backed it up with some numbers there. Did you know, Raul, this Spurs team is undefeated? Undefeated. Ready? I'll get the numbers here. They are 17-0 when they shoot 40% or better from behind the 3-point arc. Okay, fine. Maybe they don't hit their 40%. If they hit at minimum 35% or more from the 3 line, they're 27-5. But check this out. The moment they dip below 35% from the 3 line, barely above 500, 14-11. Wow. That is still a concern. That is a massive jump. It's not just by percentage points. It's huge. And in the playoffs, the game slows down. It more clogged. The half court gets clogged up. You got to have some floor spacers. Raul, are you concerned about this? Is this perhaps the biggest thing they got to work on in these remaining games?
Yeah, I think probably part of the reason why it's that way is because this team has a habit of, even if they're not making the 3-point shots, they're still taking them. I mean, there's some games where I think you and I have talked about where you started watching them and going like, why are they continuing to take threes? They were like, I'm just throwing out a random number, like 3 for 20 or something like that, and they're still taking those 3-pointers. It's cost them leads. It's cost them big leads. It's allowed other teams to extend leads that they've already had. So I think that's part of the reason why they're the record is so bad when they shoot. I think you said below 30% or 30%.
Here for you again, below 35%, they're 14-11.
Yeah,
barely above 500. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or cotton candy, there's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. I got my number one pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft. Let's start off with Confetti Craze. Look, this not paint this is overly sweet. It's a delicious blend of rich and buttery, freshly baked confetti cake, smooth vanilla frosting, and a sprinkle of sweetness in every sip. Sweet birthday cake inspired flavor, notes of vanilla frosting and sugary sprinkles, smooth dessert-like taste profile, rich indulgent sweetness from start to finish. Got a sleeper here. It's got to be cherry, bold cherry candy style flavor, sweet with a light tart edge, classic red fruit profile, bright punchy taste, smooth and easy to recognize, clean, slightly tangy finish. Yeah, there's so many flavors. You're going to want to try them all. 5-hour energy shots give you the boost you need with zero sugar. Find your new favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that always hasn't been that simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back to where it belongs, with the fans. Pull up the Game Time app. You'll be able to pick an upcoming NBA game and get tickets locked in within minutes. You'll love seeing the all-in price up front, no surprise fees at checkout. Being able to see the view from your seat before buying makes that decision so much easy. You get zone deals. They stand out. You can be able to choose a section. Game Time will pick the seats and you save. Great last minute options too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, stress-free, and from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON. That'll get you $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. Access to ad-free audio feed for Locked On Spurs, compatible with Apple's Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat for just listeners of this show and, hanging out with a lot of other fans on Discord. You want to go to this website right now, lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer club. Go there right now, or just tap the link in the show notes to learn more.
Yeah, so I think that's why. And the other thing is, that they sort of rely on that 3-point shot because of the playmakers they have. I mean, you look at De'Aaron likes going, into the paint and shooting those little short little jumpers, those little runners. You look at Dylan Harper, obviously loves to drive, and he makes, some of those shots he makes in the under the rim are just incredible with all the power he has. And then you look at Castle, same thing. So they need those 3-pointers, those guys that hit the 3-pointers, because when they drive the lane, they're able to kick it out, because there's so much attention whenever they go to the rim. There's so much defensive attention on those guys. With players just naturally attacking them to try and block the shots. I mean, I've seen Dylan, do a reverse layup on 2 or 3 players at a time. Mm-hmm. So, if they're drawing that much defensive attention, you need the guy, behind the 3-point line that can make it.
Right.
So, with the play down the stretch in the playoffs, it's not even so much them taking a lot of 3-pointers. It's just them making quality 3-pointers to keep that
right,
the lane open for or guys like you said, Dylan, Stephen, and Wemby.
right,
for Wemby to be able to drive and hit his shot. So, I mean, it's the thing is, like, Spurs don't have one guy that you say, oh, that's their 3-point threat. They don't. Harrison, is maybe one night. Julian, maybe one night. Devin was, phenomenal the other night. So, Keldon can make his threes. So I think that's a good thing in the sense that they have a number of guys that can make 3-point shots, but again, they don't have that one consistent.
Right.
Like the teams are always going to say, oh, he's going to make the 3. We got to stay on him the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. And again, not really in the parade, because look at the other stats. Overall, it's overwhelmingly the Spurs team is by far perhaps the best team in the league right now. Heading into last night's game versus the Raptors, Raul, first in offensive rating at 125, fourth in defensive rating at 106.5, third in true shooting percentage at 61%. And the list goes on and on. What about offensive rebounding percentage? They're seventh in the NBA going into that game last night versus the Raptors at 29.8%. So they're getting it done defensively, offensively, the whole thing. But there are a few little things that are still needing work. And one of them, and I don't know if I'm nitpicking here, you tell me, in their last 5 games, again, heading into last night's game versus the Raptors, okay, so during the win streak, their free throw rate is actually below the top 10 in the NBA. It's at 17th, excuse me, 17th in the NBA at 25%, 25.7% there. I'm a little, I'm not saying concerned. I'm a little surprised by that, considering how many slashes they have. And of course, the Wemby commanding all that attention. Don't you think the free throw rate should be a little higher?
It should be, as they have struggled at times this season. With free throws, I can't I can't remember the exact games, but there's at least 3 games that I can recall where they had a chance to either seal the victory or come back and possibly tie the game or get a little closer and they think they closed the game like missing their last 6 free throws. So yeah, I mean it's definitely a concern. Obviously, in the playoffs, it's gonna be a lot more physical, a lot more fouling. There's not gonna be any easy baskets. So, teams are gonna foul them, especially if they think that there's a good chance that they're not gonna make the free throws. So that's something that they definitely need to work on, especially for postseason, because
Right.
Postseason is going to be just a gritty, grimy, hard fought games. Kind of like what the Detroit game was. That was kind of a perfect little capsule of what it's going to be like.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing too, is speed of dress rehearsals is just those kind of intangible things. For example, one, I just hope they're not peaking too soon. I would hate for them to fizzle out, because then this is perhaps one of my biggest concerns in these, as Barnes put it, dress rehearsal games, is the last time the Spurs were on a long win streak. And again, just remember that loss versus the Knicks in the Cup final did not count. So take that away. They won, I believe, like 8 games in a row, something like that.
Mhm.
And what happened after that? The wheels came apart when the win streak ended. That's when they started struggling. They couldn't get back in the rhythm. Their offense just went to bleep. And I'm looking to that now. This win streak ain't going to continue, everybody. Hate to break it to you. They're going to go undefeated for the rest of the season. They're going to lose soon. And when that happens, that's something I want to see in this dress rehearsal. So my concern is the last time they had a win streak end, they kind of stumbled a bit. I don't want to see them stumble. I want to see how they rebound from that. How they, all right, well, so we lost, whatever. We lost to the Knicks, or we lost to the Nets, or the Sixers, whoever it is. Okay, how do we respond to that? I want to see how they react to that, because like I said, the concern was the last time they did this, they looked bad for a while. So there's that. But I want to go back to the 3-point shooting. And so in their last 5 games heading into the Raptors game last night, they're not taking that many 3 shots. They're actually 21st in the NBA at 3-point attempt rate at 39.2%. Almost near the bottom of the barrel in the NBA. But Raul, do you think this team is kind of, I want to say conceding it, but saying, look, we have so many weapons. Defense is one of our bread and butter this year, that they have enough to cover up that flaw of the 3-point line?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's something that they don't need. I think they're, the talking in the NBA has always been, oh, you got make a lot of threes, make a lot of threes. During the Steph Curry era,
Right.
so many teams focus on making a number of 3-pointers, but with the Spurs have so many weapons. I mean, and then their defense, so I don't think making. I'm just gonna throw a number out, say like 23 pointers or 15 peak pointers. I don't think they need that to win. It's just hitting those 3-pointers, in timely situations, to stop another team's run, to stop another team's momentum, to take the air out of a building. Those are the times when you need those 3-pointers. But with Spurs having so many weapons, I mean, to me, for them, the 3-pointer is is not as important as it is for other teams. I mean, because after the Detroit win, I mean, I saw so many national media folks, folks talking about how many weapons the Spurs had.
Right.
They're talking like, who do you stop? I mean, because Devin, had a phenomenal game. Keldon had a great game. Wemby obviously had a great game. Castle, Harper, Fox, like they were just going on and on. And then Julian, is capable of putting those kind of just big scoring games together. So with this team, they're not. Their identity isn't the 3-pointer. Their identity is defense, and
Right.
like they always say, defense leads to offense. So to me, it's not so much the quantity, it's the quality of the 3-point shot.
Right. Exactly. And I've said repeatedly on Locked On Spurs, look, Spurs, I think we all know by now, we're well into the season. Like, this is not one of the best premier 3-point shooting teams in the NBA. But if you're not going to be that, at least try to stop the 3-point shooters on the opposite end of the court, the other team. Just try to slow them down, because a guy like Steph Curry can go nuclear if you don't slow him down. We've seen time and time again a Booker go crazy. I mean, that's the season, but he has the capability of doing that. Teams that they could draw in that opening round have players that can light up that end of the floor. So we shall see what happens. But overall, look, there's a lot more pros than cons right now. There's obviously a lot more winning right now, and they're getting it done. Raul, before we segue into the Spurs fan, but you should pump the brakes a bit. Any other concerns you have about this team?
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people you can actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching for more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hire? There's a job for Indeed sponsors job.
I don't know. No, I don't think it's so much a concern, but I guess more of a compliment.
Okay.
I know fans have been, on Mitch Johnson a little bit about.
Right.
I read social media posts about, Mitch needs to do more. He's just standing on the sidelines with his arms crossed. Mitch just talked about, he wanted to allow this team to kind of grow and work through their mistakes, rather than calling a timeout. He's allowing them to kind of play through some of their mistakes, play through some of their, some of the things that are going wrong on the court. And I think that's, to me, looking at them, at the beginning of the season until now, I think that's really helped them, because you see them, especially like the Detroit game, you saw that they were taking better care of the ball. You could see that they were, they weren't as big a big of a rush as they were before. You could see that their defense was a lot more locked in. If Detroit made a shot, they come back right back down and hit a big shot. So I think it's a big kudos to Coach Mitch, allowing this team to sort of develop organically rather than every time they make a mistake, calling timeout and yelling at them, and
Right.
allowing them to kind of play through this. And I think that's part of their growth. I think that's part of the reason why they're so successful right now. It's just the fact that they were able to just kind of learn from their mistakes, and put what they've practiced and what they've been told into onto the court, rather than, like I said, constantly being yelled at or constantly, having coach call timeouts and, sort of having to sort of hold their hands through a game, this is your game. This is, your team's, this is your team rather, go out there and get this done. And I think it's paying off for the Spurs right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I always tell myself to ask Mitch this during the conference chats, and I just forget. I get sucked into the game or something else pops in my head. But one thing I admire about him as a young coach is that he doesn't get worked up. You ever notice that? Whether the Spurs clobber a team, whether they barely win, whether it's emotional win, like an overtime win or an overtime loss, or just the Spurs on the wrong end of the stick and they get clubbed in the head. He's always the same guy at the podium. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. And I think that's exactly the right temperament you need for a young squad. They lost. You got to move on. What can you do? You clean it up. You win. Great. Move on. That's one thing I really admire about Mitch.
Yeah. And last year when he took over, I think that was, I knew of Mitch and, didn't know him as a coach too well because, the Spurs assistants, typically, they're not in the spot, obviously not in the spotlight, but just seeing the way that he handled, when Pop, unfortunately he had the stroke, and just seeing the way the team was, the team was having the losing streak. And then once they started winning, and exactly what you said, Mitch was always just very calm, very even keel. If they had a tough loss, he'd be like, hey, we're working through this, we're going to get better. They had a great win. He's like, hey, probably guys, but this is something we got to keep building on. And exactly what you said, he was just always, he's win or lose, he's the same, same guy post game or, during the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's something I really admire. And I always want to ask him that question. Hopefully when they get back from the rodeo trip, I can finally ask him that probing question I've been dying to ask him the whole year. But I got to make sure I get there for pregame, though. That's the probably only time I can probably get it in there. But nevertheless, we're talking about Silver and Black here, right here on Locked On Spurs with our guest, Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. He's on next at Dominguez Cinco. Give him a follow right now. But what are your thoughts? Are there concerns that you have? Maybe concerns is the wrong word. Are there just things you want to see fixed up in these remaining games? Let us know. All right. So, Raul, the Spurs, they're humming right now. They look unbeatable right now. Numbers show it. You looked at some numbers a little while ago. They're just cream of the crop right now in the league. A lot of Spurs fans are excited. They wish that the playoffs could start right now. And let's go ahead and get this over with. Let's get it going. But Raul, we still have X amount of games. We still have a young core that's unproven in the playoffs. Wemby, 0 playoff experience. Castle, Harper, Vassell, Keldon, 0 playoff experience. Nevertheless, I mean, this Spurs team, Raul, is getting praised as, a title contender. Yes, they are. This season, not next year, not from 2 years now. Now, do you think Spurs fans should temper expectations even though they're playing so well right now?
Well, I think I'll preface this by saying, when we had talked about before the season, when you and I had talked about this, I had talked about how I thought the Spurs would be a top 4 seed. I thought that they had so much talent and so much energy in their defense, and obviously with Wemby, I thought that they would be a top 4 seed. I thought that they would have a really great regular season, but I had said at the time that the only question I had was whether they could sustain that through the playoffs. Just because they would be so young and have such little playoff experience. I mean, a lot of people point to De'Aaron as having playoff experience, but he only had 7 games. The whole time he was in Sacramento, they were only in 1 playoff series, and they went to 7 games. But that's his only postseason experience. So I tried to temper it, saying that I've seen other young teams where they do great in the regular season and the postseason. They struggle. I think OKC did that maybe like a couple seasons ago, maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago, where they had a great regular season, and I think they lost in, I think it was first or second round, but and that had to do with experience. So, but with that said, I think Spurs fans should just go nuts. I mean, they've had so little to cheer for. Just have fun with it, man. Because like I said, there's been they had I think it was with the record-setting losing streak or
Remember that? Yeah.
tying it. It came so close to tying the franchise record for losses of 21. Only 21 wins.
Yeah.
2 seasons they had 22. 6 seasons without a playoff appearance. All the mess with the Kawhi Leonard. Thinking, we're not thinking, but knowing that you had a superstar player and feeling like he was going to make that transition from the big three to the next era of the Spurs, so easy, and then all that happened, and Spurs fans have not had a lot to cheer for, in the past 7-8 years.
Yeah, 7. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so I say go crazy. Keep your expectations high. Go honking downtown after this first. Just enjoy this ride. Because obviously with such a young Spurs team, I think there's going to be a lot of years of success. I think this is just the beginning of possibly another run, similar to what the David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Manu Parker, that long run they had. I think this is the start of a similar run. So, but just enjoy it. I have think that you're NBA favorite like we used to, like the Spurs fans used to do back in the day. It seemed like every year they Spurs fans expected to win the title. So enjoy this ride. I mean, it's been a while for Spurs fans, so celebrate.
Yeah. I'm with you to a degree. I do agree with you. And Spurs fans enjoy it, absorb it, watch it, soak it in, because this is the start of the next, perhaps another golden era of the Spurs chapter and their history. So definitely enjoy it. But as far as title run, that's where I say, okay, just keep expectations moderate, because can you imagine this if the Spurs stay at 2 and it stays chalk, they stay as 2 and they draw like a Phoenix or a Houston? I mean, they could be in for a slugfest. They could be in for a fight, especially against a team like Houston. Or I doubt it, but imagine they get a battle-tested Golden State Warriors in that first round, and that chess match between Mitch and Steve Kerr, Draymond going up against Wemby, getting physical with him, Curry having the potential to go nuclear on you. He did that already twice in San Antonio. He has the capability of doing that. The point is that keep expectations for a title run moderate. Yes, be excited for it. They have the potential to do that. But every young team has to take their lumps. What I can see, Raul, is, opening round series where they got the first one or maybe the second one, and now they're like, oh, great, what do we got to do now to get back up track? Even with the home. So that's going to be like their next adjustment.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if they lose in the first round. I don't see that happening. But imagine an OKC stays at 1 and they take care of business. Let's just say they sweep the Blazers or the Clippers or the Warriors, whoever they get, and then the Spurs are still fighting in their series. Denver, they draw Denver in the second round, and OKC draw. If they stay at the 1 seed, they have the easier path, the lesser teams to deal with, and the Spurs will have to. So that's the potential date versus the Denver Nuggets. That's scary to me. That is so scary. So be excited. Enjoy the ride right now. This is just the beginning part roller coaster, and it's going to be a lot more highs and lows. But a potential low could happen in the postseason, as this young Spurs core is about to get their taste of playoff experience. Hey, Raul, there's a reason why Chris Paul told Steph Castle, go check out a playoff game. Go see how it is. There's a reason why he did that, because he wanted Castle to see what the level is like in the postseason. Seeing it is one thing, experiencing it is another. Raul, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, exactly. And then, touched on kind of what you were talking about earlier, as far as, you're talking about, how are they going to react, when the winning streak ended, and sort of how they rebound from that. That's a perfect thing for the playoffs as well, because if obviously in a 7-game series, one loss is still big, because then you got to bounce back, especially if you lose one at home, you got to bounce back the next game and win on the road. So I think that's going to be key for them as well. Rebounding from a loss, because that's going to help them in the playoffs. Because I don't, whether you are the San Antonio Spurs or the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's extremely unlikely you're going to go, 16-0 or the playoffs, win every single game in the playoffs. So you're going to suffer a loss. So, it's something that they're going to have to kind of learn from and build from.
Yeah. Remember, even the title teams that the Spurs have had, 5 of them, they all suffered losses. There was a slugfest versus the Pistons in that series. Remember the Blazers series, Western Conference Finals in the Dome? The Blazers were just, I think, remember that series where the Blazers were up big, right? Like they had a 2-0 lead or something like that.
I think so. And I think Sean's 3 game, gave him a 3-2 lead, I think. But yeah, I mean, every playoff series, they had the battle with the Mavericks one season, and when they won the title. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be, like you're saying, it's going to be a slugfest, and again, watching it is completely different than playing in it.
Yeah, exactly. I think, was it the championship game series versus the Cavs? That's where they only lost like 1? I think something ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it was that year that I guess LeBron. I don't know if LeBron was a rookie or was young.
And he was still young,
Yeah, and Timmy went. He had the video footage of Timmy. Thanking LeBron for giving him 1 before he takes over the league. I think his quote was, I think,
07. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's when LeBron started laughing. Just started laughing at Duncan. But the point is, everybody, those teams still had to be tested in the playoffs, and they pulled it out. Spurs, this iteration of the Spurs, still need to experience that. So don't completely pump the brakes, Spurs fans. Maybe just lightly tap. How's that? Just do a light tap, and we shall see. But there's a lot of Spurs games left, so we'll see how this team shapes up before the real deal begins. He is Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. Follow him on X at Dominguez5. Raul, what are you working on? What are you working on over there?
Just kind of waiting on the Spurs to come back after their year-long rodeo road trip.
It's year-long.
And then just the stretch down to end the regular season. I mean, I don't, Spurs haven't clinched yet, but just a matter of time. So it's going to be nice for San Antonio to enjoy that postseason again.
Sure.
I'm sure they're I think a whole generation had a Spurs playoff run every year, and now I think there's kids and people who've never experienced that playoff before. So that's gonna be nice for the Spurs fans.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. By the way, shout out Mitch Johnson getting his first San Antonio mural. Raul, you and I both got wind of that.
Yeah, that was nice. Them to do that for Mitch. Mitch is such a nice guy and a humble guy, and I talked to some of the Spurs officials, and they say he hates the attention. So he doesn't like doing one-on-one interviews, and he does the pregame obviously because he has to. But I think he had a choice. I think he wouldn't do that either. So
yeah,
he's just a very humble guy. He prefers to be behind the scenes, and it's nice to see him get some recognition.
There it is on your screen, everybody. That's courtesy of Rudy's Seafood on the south side of San Antonio on Flores. So if you have a chance, make sure to go out there. But that's it. That's the new mural. I think he did a pretty good job. Did a good job.
Yeah, it looks like he's looking at the Spurs, play defense and going like,
Yeah. No, that's him looking at me right now. But
I need to fix that defense.
Or that's him looking at me at the press conference. Oh, God, this guy's not having a question for me. Great. Better I be nice about it. Yeah. But again, good job there. So there's Mitch Johnson's first SA mural. Loving it. All right, everybody. What do y'all got to say about today's topics? There's concerns for the Spurs team. Are you managing tempering expectations for any type of playoff run? Let us know. Again, he's on X at Dominguez5. I'm on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone. Raul, as always, we thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us here on Locked On Spurs. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever we get podcasts. iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5+ app, YouTube. Go check it out right now. Go check out the Locked On NBA Everydayer Club. It's built for you. You get Locked On Spurs ad-free. You get members-only Discord access, chat it up with other NBA fans, Spurs fans, so much more. You want to go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayerclub. Do that right now. We'll be back tomorrow as the Spurs season rolls on. So for Mr. Raul Dominguez, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs.